Hello, everyone. Glad to say, everyone, my name is Konstantin. We will, over 10 sessions, discuss how, from a financial perspective, how to evaluate business efficiency in terms of plans we have, goals we want to achieve. How can the work of each department, each function within the business be evaluated? How do we connect this into a system of all interconnected indicators within the business? And how do we, all of this, yes, like in that joke, how do we take off with all of this now? Our work structure will be like this. There are 10 sessions, each consisting of a theoretical and practical part. At first, we go through the theoretical part. I show examples, a presentation, slides. After this, we move on to the practical application of the knowledge we discussed in the first part. That is, we immediately apply the theory to practice. I am a practitioner myself. We deal with finances, and each of our separate sessions is that part of practical work, which I have personally experienced. Therefore, there will be relatively little theory, and we will mostly talk about practice, how to apply and implement this theory in our current conditions, and naturally what dangers, risks, and surprises may lie in wait for us on this path. Well, naturally, through this approach, we will be able to see how our model, which we will be building, a practical model of the financial outlook of the business, comes together, becomes complete, and perhaps even show some preliminary results. Okay, today we have the first session. It's an open webinar. I traditionally start the course and the lesson with a small joke and the joke is necessarily on the topic we will discuss today. Today, our topic is about business efficiency as a whole. What efficiency is, how to measure it, how to deal with it, yes, and whether it is necessary. So actually, I'll tell you a little anecdote about efficiency. A weight loss specialist is asked, what is the most effective weight loss remedy? He says, you know, years of research and my own practice have shown that the most effective weight loss remedy is coal. Everyone's like, wow, and and how should one take it? In capsules, tablets, or maybe in some other form? He says it should be taken in bags and preferably in freight car quantities. That's when it will truly be the most effective weight loss remedy. Accordingly, effectiveness, yes, is and effective means roughly similar in business, right? There are no unique pills. There is a universal means of effectiveness. You need to work hard and qualitatively and achieve the result you personally want. The second joke on the topic is probably more about myself regarding the business coach and some things, online learning and so on. A person goes on stage and says, you know, I worked in a large corporation, but I was fired for being an ineffective employee. Then I started my own business, and after some time, I went bankrupt. Well, now I'm a business coach, a certified coach, and I'm here to tell you all how to make a lot of money and be a very successful person. That's right, with a smile, with humor, we will approach many things. Thank you for attending the classes. Thank you for being with me in this course. We will move forward together. If you have any questions as you receive information, we can always discuss them. Each class will be structured in such a way that at the end, after the practical part, we will allocate some time to discuss any questions that arise and that you can write now in the chat. Comments if you disagree with something, because everything I talk about is purely practical. And you may have your own opinion based on your own experience or perhaps on some examples from life. Do not hesitate, write. I really love discussions. I really love questions. I really love hot topics. I will share my opinion. We will discuss. And after that, we can move our interactive communication to a special chat on Telegram that we have for this course and for the finance department overall. We can continue the discussion there and exchange our thoughts, opinions, and experiences. Essentially, this is how we will work. Now I will share my screen with you. Please tell me right later in the chat, can you see the presentation? If possible, please let me know if everything is okay with the presentation. One moment, just a moment. So the chat is there, everything is visible. Great.
Presentation for the first session.
Managing finances in business. The first lesson is dedicated to efficiency-driven business. What does that mean? What is business efficiency? How will we approach managing finances overall and business, building a business model through the concept of efficiency? A link to our website. The course program consists of 12 sessions, each of which is part of a whole. Our task in the process of studying the course is to understand how finances can transform any strategy, any goal, into a set of fairly simple indicators that will show how effectively we are achieving the set goal.
What is business from a general helicopter view?
Business is the unification of people. It is some system of uniting people, resources, and assets to achieve a set goal and earn money. Well, business is added value, it's profit, it's money that should result from it. So, the task of finance is to calculate how we can most effectively achieve the set goals. Roughly speaking, goals can be in the form of a plan, a budget, or a strategy. All this turns into a set of financial indicators, and any steps towards achieving this goal can be measured from a financial point of view. A very simple approach. Everything related to finance turns into monetary indicators. Of course, there are small tricks, so to speak, small tools that allow us, besides financial efficiency, to also measure the efficiency of other processes. And we will talk about this. And it's something they don't write about in books, something they keep quiet about, right? From an accounting perspective, anything that doesn't turn into money is not visible. I prefer an approach where we can see how other resources, other efforts applied transform into efficiency. And starting with this lesson, we will be talking about this, practically enriching our example with I will show directly online in the practical part how we will create a business model, what metrics we will incorporate into this model, which will allow us to assess how effective, how are we running our business correctly, how we set goals, how closely we move in the business process towards achieving this goal, and how to measure the overall temperature. Yes, how to measure the health, the financial health of our business. Moreover, this model can be applied to any business, to a business of any size, any complexity, using the very skills we will be discussing. Therefore, we will have a session, you can see on the slide what they are called, dedicated to business modeling, processes, mission, vision, strategic pyramid, business process management, goal methodologies, naturally planning and budgeting, naturally KPI effectiveness metrics and other approaches that allow us to bring everything we've talked about into a single model of balanced indicators covering all the functions of the business that we want to measure. Well, actually, all of this is called, in my view, a to-be-in approach, which means an efficiency measurement approach. And this is the subject of our course. Let's move on. How to optimize the business model. What is optimization? Optimization is simplification. How can we have the pieces from which we can build any model? how to understand what we need without overloading people who have to do their jobs with indicators. That is, first and foremost, we must think about how to assist those who want to make managerial decisions and obtain valuable information. How can we create a model that contains only the information, the financial information that we need to make important business decisions? How not to overload, not to overload our model with junk, out of information that does not have value right here and now. And from this perspective, we can compare our model to an accounting model. If someone has dealt with accounting, they will not let me lie. I worked as an accountant for more than 10 years, that in accounting there is a lot of information that does not carry value in terms of a management approach, in terms of decision making. As a rule, accounting information is accurate and complete, but it is untimely and lags behind. Accounting reports are created after the period has closed, and making decisions based on accounting information is at least ineffective and useless. This will not bring any direct benefits to those who receive such information. Therefore, we must build our model based on slightly different foundational factors. Which ones? Let's talk about that. This is about me. This is about homework. Yes, our course will consist, besides online lessons, which are divided into practical and theoretical parts, and question and answer sessions, of homework as well. There will also be two types of homework. The first is a small quiz. It is a test for each lesson that will consist of 10 questions and several answer options, only one of which is correct. Naturally, all this will be related to the lessons we conduct. And the second part is essentially practical work with the business model that should become the foundation of your business understanding. During the practical portion of the lesson online, I show you my own model and provide it to you as an Excel file so that you can fill it with your own information, components and details, and see how this model develops from lesson to lesson. This is in order to have a finished project by the end, after the 12th lesson. And I would be very glad if you saw the practical value of such a model in your next work, in your career, yes, in your understanding of business from the perspective of providing financial information. So that's the structure of our course. When we talk about efficiency-driven or business efficiency, we need to understand that theoretically, in global macroeconomics, there are concepts such as stages of economic development. Typically, this refers to the economies of countries. But we have the concept of three stages. And if we look at their names on the slide, we will see that the second stage is called efficiency-driven. In addition, we have factor-driven and innovation-driven. These are different levels of a country's economic development in terms of resource use and tasks performed at each stage. The first stage of development is called a factor-driven economy. It is based on natural resources, manufacturing, and meeting basic economic needs. When we address some large tasks to ensure basic needs are met.
Basic needs of the economy, I mean,
this stage is characterized by physical presence. These are huge factories, trading posts, I don't know, some conglomerates based on the extraction of minerals, on simple technological processes that ensure stability. And so, in principle, probably all countries in the world have gone through this stage, but some countries are still at this stage. Business, if we compare the development of businesses, can also be at this stage. These are simple technological operations, the use of natural resources, the exploitation of a monopoly position when we don't need to compete because we have it. Yes. And this is, excuse me, well, to speak bluntly, kickbacks and theft based on the allocation of budget funds. If we have a business that is tapping into some budget source of funds, we win tenders and execute some work, it is very likely that our business is at the first stage of development. Factor-driven business, the business is resource-based, and yes, this is not a very complex business model, and we are not going to talk about this business model. We are not going to talk about a model that is not aimed at making money by creating some values, some good things that allow us to gain our competitive advantage in the market and attract clients to us. And based on the fact that our product, our good, is better than any other, that's already efficiency. That's already efficiency-driven business. But factor-driven is a little different. It involves using a monopoly position, corruption, theft, and other unpleasant things that we won't discuss. Okay, the second stage. It is characterized by a higher level of business organization, more complex business processes. We encounter things that fundamentally, diametrically differ from the first level of development. Higher education of employees, more technologically advanced products and services, more efficient use of all resources, more complex financial instruments that we apply to organize this business. Higher goals. Our aim is not only to make money, but also, for example, to gain market share, develop our own brand, achieve some other goals that we will discuss separately. Earning money is not necessarily the fundamental factor at this stage of economic development. And we must not forget that we also have a third level of economic development called innovation-driven, when the economy is fueled, and innovations are the factors of economic development. And here we have innovations, globalization, freedom of choice, freedom of human rights, some other values that we incorporate into the economy. If we are talking about the economy and conducting business, there are more highly organized businesses that are already at the third stage of development, which have gone through the efficiency-driven stage and moved to the next level, right? As a rule, such businesses are already subject to more complex laws, including financial and economic ones, and they are characterized by slightly different features, right? And we can compare that businesses worth billions, which are public. Let's talk about Apple, Tesla, some other very successful leaders in their segment. They are already most likely at stage 3, actually, definitely. We will not talk about them now. This is not the focus of our course. We are talking about businesses that can be created immediately at the efficiency-driven stage, based on the efficiency-driven business model, can theoretically easily transition to an innovation-driven model without changing their own structure, because the structure is the same on the second and third levels. However, the content of this structure can change, and we will talk about laying the right foundation that will allow us to start immediately from the second model, the second level, efficiency-driven, and develop into innovation-driven without changing basic processes, without changing basic functions. This is what I wanted to say about the stages of economic development in relation to the stages of business development. The next point I would like to talk about is efficiency. Efficiency in relation to the English language has some differences. We have at least two terms, which translate the same way, effective and efficient. In Russian, they both translate as effektivnost, but they have different connotations, different meanings. To be effective, like effective, means doing everything to achieve a goal, prioritizing the achievement of the goal itself. But being efficient means achieving the goal
with the least amount of energy or resources.
And from a business perspective, being effective is, of course, good, but being efficient is a more preferable way of being effective, because in this case, our efficiency as efficient is achieving goals with the least expenditure of anything. That is, you can achieve a goal by spending a lot of money, time, resources, nerves, and this will be effective. Because on the metrics, yes, of efficiency, we see that low effectiveness, high efficiency, right? High effectiveness, high efficiency. How's that? The right things in the right way. The right way, yes? And high effectiveness, low efficiency are the wrong things in the right way, the right way. This is what you shouldn't do in business. Our task is to be in the top right corner, to be highly effective in terms of both effectiveness and efficiency. But remember that efficiency for us is primarily the head of the corner. This is a fundamental thing, because look at the left, at the upper left corner, low effectiveness, high efficiency, in this case the right things, but in the wrong way.
This is also not very good.
We need to be in that square, which ensures that we achieve our set goals with optimal balance, with minimal resource expenditure, meaning money, based on the correctly set goal. Here, to be effective is also to consider how to set the goal correctly. And based on these algorithms, based on these postulates, we will build our business model. We will build a model based on efficiency, simultaneously effective and efficient in order to do the right things in the right way. Another element we need to remember, that we need to be aware of, is multitasking. Here are several. In this case, I have noted 7 fundamental factors that we need to use in order to build the right business efficiency model. In order to be effective, to achieve goals correctly with maximum results and minimal resource expenditure, we need to remember that multitasking is actually a bad thing, right? And if we look at the chart provided on the slide, then the more tasks there are simultaneously before an employee or a business, the more less efficiency. In this case, regarding time achievement, yes, is already observed. If the number of tasks simultaneously exceeds 2, 3, and even more. Therefore, we must remember that efficiency is achieved by considering such factors. Proper prioritization. We need to understand from what we have determined for ourselves, is the highest priority. What do we do first? What do we do second? What can be left for later? We need to remember to alternate tasks. Monotony can kill efficiency. We need to change approaches, alternate tasks in order to switch and be as efficient as possible. We need to remember about focusing on concentration. If we need to complete a task in a short time, we need to concentrate on it as much as possible. That means putting all our efforts, resources, and attention into completing this task within the time frame we set for ourselves. Naturally, we need to keep in mind the quality of completed tasks. For this, it's important to understand what the quality criteria are from the perspective of financial management, from a business approach perspective. And we will definitely take the quality parameter into account when setting tasks. Naturally, the deadlines. It's necessary to to set a deadline by which we want to achieve this result. If we don't set a deadline, we trap ourselves in a situation where we can't constrain one of the resource factors, the time factor. Maintaining a backlog. We definitely need to monitor and record how we solve tasks, in what sequence we went through all the stages of setting tasks, monitoring their achievement and effectiveness. That is, to what extent we actually did or did not achieve this task. We will apply all these tools when creating our business model. I will show how it's all practically kept as a backlog, preserved in the form of a schedule of how we went through our sessions. In this case, using the example of creating a business model during our course. And systematic monitoring. Monitoring means that we must set ourselves checkpoints, control points, to verify whether we have achieved them or not, or upon reaching the set time, we must compare the planned tasks we set for ourselves with the actual results we achieved. Without monitoring, without planned fact analysis, we will not be able to determine where we truly are. The most ideal plan cannot be effective for us if we don't fill it with actual information about where we are on the way to achieving this plan. Therefore, there are 7 main principles that we will use for creating our model and tracking the efficiency of our business operations. And let's see how it actually works. A bit more about different approaches to creating a business model as a separate project. When considering the development, filling, and implementation of a business model as a separate project, and it is indeed a separate project, we need to know a little about project management methodologies, because we, as leaders of this project, are project managers, whether we want to or not. No. And we will use one of the methodologies that currently exists today in the process of implementing this project. We have several approaches on the slide. Classic waterfall, when we proceed from setting a task to its implementation, testing, and maintenance, or the more modern agile approach, which involves cycles where we do not have clearly defined stages spread over time, and we cannot implement the entire project until we have fully described, designed, tested, and so on. In the agile approach, it's a flexible method of development. We can have multiple tasks simultaneously at the planning stage, simultaneously multiple tasks at the implementation, deployment, evaluation, and any other stages. And at the same time, we move towards achieving our overall goal when we break our project into several small sub-projects, the completion of which will ensure our main goal. I will not focus on project management methodology now. That can be discussed at length. We need to understand that these methodologies exist, and we will use the elements that suit us most effectively, which will essentially help us achieve the goal we want for ourselves. This is an example of Scrum, the Scrum methodology, which relates to Agile. And when our project is divided into sprints, usually weekly or 10-day ones, or sometimes different ones, others, and each of the sprints is placed on a specific Kanban board, right? In the backlog, its status changes, its progress is monitored, and after that, we incrementally, in parts, achieve our project. Here's a Kanban board in the photo, a typical example. We use this methodology in our project development for the financial system. We use this approach to organize individual projects within the finance department. And in principle, short cycles, which allow us to eat an elephant one bite at a time, so to speak, are very effective for achieving specific quick goals, especially in long projects that stretch over months, and their effectiveness is very hard to assess in the short term. We will also try using Scrum to develop our business model as an approach to a unified financial business model, evaluate each lesson as a sprint. That is, we will use elements of the Scrum methodology.
Each individual lesson of ours. That is, we will use elements of the SKRA methodology.
Probably the most important slide for today, which allows us to move on to the practical implementation of our model, is breaking down our business model or our business idea into individual functions or individual processes. On the slide, we see an approximate list of financial management processes that, in principle, show where we can be valuable for other business functions. As the head of the financial department, for example, I approach other heads of functional departments and want to sell them the value of my department. Sell in quotation marks, of course. How can I do this? To me, this path is obvious. I need to describe the services. I must describe those processes that are valuable from a business perspective, that bring value to the business as a whole, that can show everyone how I can help everyone achieve a common result. And here we have how many? 8 functions, 8 key processes that are essentially valuable for the business I work in. Let's go through each of them. Financial planning and analysis is a function that allows us to turn any strategy into a set of financial metrics and analyze whether we are achieving them or not. How interesting, how valuable is this function? Naturally, if we show all users, all heads of functional departments, the entire top management, yes, all the investors, our financial plans, it will demonstrate that we as a business are thinking about how to turn our strategy into a set of financial indicators that we want to achieve. Sales volume, business margin, profit, account balances, accounts receivable, accounts payable. These are the financial indicators that characterize the achievement of the overall result and are integral components of any business strategy. Financial planning and analysis is a function that allows us to realize such value, convey to everyone that we have set benchmarks, and then show the analysis. The analysis function shows how close the actual indicators are to those we set as an example ourselves. The second function, purchase to pay. If we want to make any payment to buy raw materials or purchase goods or pay for services we need in the business process, and at the same time be sure that we are buying the best product at the best price with minimal expenses. The procure to pay function must ensure this process, ensure the capability to execute such expenses, ensure the availability of funds for these expenses, ensure price control, ensure the accuracy in processing transactions, and in this result, provide the opportunity for any stakeholder, any participant within our business model to achieve the desired outcome in the process of procuring something, raw materials, equipment, services, or anything else. Order to cash is a function that ensures receiving money for the goods and services we sell. In big business, as a rule, the moment of sale and the receipt of money are not the same, except for retail trade. In this case, retail trade is precisely the assurance of receiving money at the moment of sale. If we are talking about wholesale trade,
If we are talking about providing services, typically the moment of providing services or selling goods wholesale and the moment of receiving money are spread out over time. The task of the order to cash process is to receive this money in full at the time stipulated by the contract terms. If we have a payment delay, we must ensure that all issued invoices for the shipped goods are paid on time. If we provide services and close this with an invoice, our task is to control the repayment of accounts receivable. If we need to receive an advance payment before completing an order, our task as the finance department is to ensure the full receipt of the advance and inform the manager, functional manager who wants to start this project, make this order that all conditions have been met on which we agreed. Order to cash is an important function that essentially provides, from a business perspective, the circulatory system, receiving money for sold goods, provided services, or completed work, capital budgeting function, to provide our business with certain essential non-current assets. We generally need to either purchase these assets or acquire them in some way to ensure they start working for the benefit of our business. The function of capital budgeting is the planning and implementation of all projects related to non-current assets, construction, equipment purchase, vehicle procurement, investment projects for acquiring some production capacities or something else. This is also related to the appearance. Here are assets, yes, intangible assets. In the business process, main non-current assets, and they can be both tangible and intangible. Intangible assets are becoming increasingly important in business now. This includes software development and the creation of intangible assets that can sometimes be even more valuable than the most expensive tangible resources, material objects. Factories, equipment, transport, and so on and so forth. Therefore, capital budgeting in this case is a function that ensures the fulfillment of this task. The next function is risk management. We must assess all the risks associated with conducting business from a financial perspective. How can they affect the achievement of our financial metrics? How can they impact our cash reserves for meeting our obligations, for paying employee salaries, for example, for purchasing some equipment, for buying the next batch of goods? Or what will we do if the dollar exchange rate changes on which we suddenly depend? Or maybe we don't depend on it. What will we do if the market falls by an amount that we did not anticipate in our financial planning? Risk management is a system that allows us to be adequately prepared for the occurrence of such risks that we must consider from a financial perspective and ensure a reserve, preferably, yes, in financial terms, that will allow us to mitigate or compensate for the occurrence of such a risk. The next function is compensation calculation. It is the salary. Probably any employee of any business, at least once a month, one uses this function. Everyone wants to know that their salary is calculated fully, on time, correctly, accurately, promptly, and that they can be provided with information for what amount they received, how it was calculated, on the basis of which calculations he was paid precisely that amount, and how it was done transparently, timely, and in full. And most likely this function is indeed important from a human perspective, to provide each employee with the feeling that they are receiving an adequate salary, correct, calculated on time, based on the factors that were previously discussed, rates, hours worked, bonuses, additional payments, compensations, and other elements that may be included in the total amount he received. The next function is record to report. This function ensures the recording of everything that happens within the business and transforms all of it into financial reports. Moreover, the reports can be of completely different levels and directions. This can be financial reports, tax reports, internal reports for management decisions, reports for investors, reports for banks. These can be any other reports that might be utilized. Any consumer of financial information in the record to report function must ensure the accuracy and timeliness of completing such reports, the internal control function. Naturally, we need to establish a function that will ensure the absence of any incidents related to inefficient use of business funds or, frankly speaking, theft within the middle of our business. We must ensure the security of business money from encroachments, yes, from inefficiency, and from any other factors that could impact the efficiency of our business. If our business is associated with inefficient use of resources, if to put it bluntly, there is theft at any stage. And this could be at any stage: order initiation stage, order fulfillment stage, preparation for product shipment. I will provide examples. In each of the classes, I can tell a life story related to how a business incurred huge losses simply because it did not have a properly established internal control system, a system for controlling cash flow, a system for monitoring the movement of raw materials, finished products, the system of control over purchase prices, the system of controlling the fulfillment of orders, which could be diverted to other clients, to the side, yes, to competitors, and not receive, and the business did not receive any clients. This is all related to building the right internal control system, to building a system for processing and analyzing financial information in terms of preserving the information and resources of the business. This is not an exhaustive list of financial management processes. It is an example that allows you to start thinking about which key processes from a financial or perhaps another functional perspective we want to lay as the foundation of our business model. How? Let's take a look now. Our homework, which we will now move on to, will be the practical part of our lesson and will then be sent to all course participants as a template for creating and starting to fill a new model. Creating a process model of your own business in terms of describing the main functions. My Excel, yes. Could you please signal if the Excel is visible on the screen? Please put a plus sign. Excellent. As you can see, I have a schedule consisting of 12 sessions, and for each session we have something we will do as homework. On the first tab with lesson 1, we have the creation of a process model of our own business, a description of the main functions, what we talked about. And here are 3 descriptive parts. No financial indicators yet, about what we need to start to create a financial model of the business. We need a business description to understand what we are about in general. What do I have? My case, my business case. My example in this instance is a project for implementing comprehensive IT solutions for an office. Basically, it's a startup that wants to become an integrator. That is the provision of services, a comprehensive service that will meet the need for equipment, software, and service maintenance for any customer, user, for a user who needs to set up a computer, place a person, provide them with a workspace. And it doesn't matter what kind of business it is or who will be working on the computer, from an office manager to a high-end IT solution architect who needs a very sophisticated computer, a very powerful station, a special monitor, possibly some specialized software. And so my company must solve this task, moreover, provide it all as a ready-made product. an end-to-end solution, so-called, which will include equipment selection, software installation, ensuring uninterrupted operation of all this, replacement of non-working equipment, and possibly upgrading this equipment as needed or at the client's request. And possibly even take on the financing of all this, giving the client the opportunity to fully pay for such a package. Therefore, the second part is the business model. And here in the business model, I outline what we want to offer. Purchase of hardware, computer hardware and software to create workplace standards. We will have 4 to 5 different packages for various users, the most typical ones, and the possibility of configuring a custom order. That is, roughly speaking, there could be a basic package, a premium package, or an IT package for IT companies. I'll think about the name, I don't know yet, it's still a concept, right? And naturally, the option for a custom order. Each of these packages will have its own cost, naturally. The second difference in the business model is scheduled maintenance for setting up and supporting workstations. With Apple, fully take on installation, setup, and launch of a workstation in the client's office, delivery of the computer, installation of software on this computer, launch to create a fully operational workstation ready for immediate use. A person sits down and starts working based on the requirements they configured beforehand. That gave us the task. Third, the distinction that will be built into our business model is that we include in the cost of our product repair, modernization, and replacement of equipment at the client's request. Another distinction of our model will be the ability for leasing or installment purchase or other financial options for financing the client's IT infrastructure. For example, if our existing client wants to replace one computer with another, they may not pay the full larger cost of the new computer, but only the difference between these packages they are ordering additionally. This is an option to gain a competitive advantage in the market as a type of unified comprehensive IT solution that will set us apart from others in the market. Based on this, my task is to write the main functions of the business model we discussed together with you now. Which functions of the business model should I describe here? Technically, we must be ready to supply equipment. So we need to purchase it. Procurement and selection of equipment, hardware and software. That is the main technical business process, I would say, that we need in order to configuration and installation of software on computers.
Transportation of equipment to the client. This is what we do. We need to do. We must be ready for this. Processing orders from potential clients. Actually, not quite. I would like to have a function for marketing, advertising, which involves finding potential clients. Yes, this function is important to me. Processing customer orders. We must find a potential customer. We must process their order in such a way that we can then purchase and select equipment, configure, install software for them, and transport the equipment to the customer. Then we need to create invoices for clients. It's essential. We need to generate an invoice for the client, right? What else should we provide to our client? Support service, technical support service. In fact, everything related to clients, I need to write an external or internal function. Well, and of course, to specify that, configuration and installation of software on the computer is external. Configuration, installation of software is an internal function. Certainly, yes. Thank you very much. Lena writes to me in the chat to prepare the contracts. legal support is important, contracts, and so on. Because legal support can be transporting equipment to the client is an internal function. It does not concern the client, it should not. Marketing, advertising, naturally external. Processing a client's order is internal. Creating an invoice for the client is internal. Technical support service is external. Legal support is external. Next. So what do we have? Well, let's talk about, now let's move on more to internal functions. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but we would like to go through the general guidance now. Guidance and strategy development, setting goals. Yeah, this is such a function. Naturally, it is necessary, right? You can add some more functions here. Decision making, relationships with investors and with founders. But now we will talk about general management. Let's talk about the HR and recruiting function. We definitely need to have it's an internal function, but recruiting is probably external. In this case, we need to select the right people to work with. What other functions are important to us? Well, I'll write finance at the end. Yes, finance and accounting. Let's also think about what functions we need for the technical department, which will provide, I will write it to you like this. An administrative technical department, which will ensure our back office in terms of office functionality. This will include placing our employees in offices, providing them with all necessary premises that need to be obtained. Office management will be here as well, yet internal automated control system, ACS, right? It will be called ACS. You can call it ACS, automated. In English, it will be ERP control system. And here I will also write a business process, business processes. I need this kind of function. Why? I'll explain a little more about how it will influence and how it will connect all our functions. Finance and accounting. Yes, this is an important function. It is also internal. Here there can also be personnel administration. Or it will be here in personnel. Internal control, already an internal function. Yes, quality. Here we will also consider the security service. Maybe it's all within one function that will provide physical security, internal control, and quality control. What other functions could be related to execution? Yes, if we talk about financial options, then possibly finance and accounting. Relations with banks, I will create a universal function. Or perhaps these functions, based on your business model, will be separated. In this case, we do not limit our imagination, showing what and how we see what functions. Look, here's the importance of all this. We are focusing on the processes happening within our business, not on which departments we have or might have within our business. Because for me, it's more important to understand how movement occurs. Information, money, raw materials, any other type of resources, human. People are not resources. People are people. How does the movement of people occur within our business? Instead of drawing some hierarchical administrative system, subordination, or something else. No, at this stage, we just need to list all the processes that we consider important, that we want to have in our business, so that it can take off, so that it can start to earn finance and accounting, relationships with banks, maybe treasury, right? Or maybe budgeting, financial planning. All this could be part of such a financial function. The administrative and technical department can be divided into other subunits, other departments within, depending on the specifics of the business. This could be an entire HR recruitment department.
There could be separate HR and separate recruitment, or maybe there is a separate HR business partner, so-called, right? This is a new direction, different from HR. Personnel record management can be separated into a separate department and not be subordinate here. We are not talking about the hierarchical structure of the business right now. We are talking about the processes we need to achieve the goal for which the business it was conceived, right? What do we see based on our experience in building a business? Either describe the existing business and understand, is this function external or internal? This is a conditional division. Some functions can be mixed. For example, marketing and advertising are both external and internal functions, because working with leads, converting potential clients into existing ones, can be a function belonging to marketing, but it is already internal, right? Processing customer orders can also be part of the marketing department. In this case, I divided them into external and internal functions, but there can be some mix. We have no restrictions, we have no strict rules for describing the main functions, and we don't have any prioritization yet. We have no connections between them, or how each process interacts with each other or transitions from one to another. This is what we will work on in the following lessons. We will structure the model that we outline now, possibly going back and adding to it. It's completely normal to return to the first lesson's notes and add a function we forgot to write here. Our task now is to start with the fact that we have a business idea, describe it, the business model, how we want it to function, and the main functions that we are currently laying out in the set, we will work with throughout the course. We can later change these functions, add to them, modify their external and internal attributes, prioritize, work more on some functions, and leave others for further development. We need this in order to simulate the process that will ensure delivering value to our business's customer, so we can provide the customer with a ready IT solution for the office, supply of equipment, software, and its maintenance all in one. What is in the business description? This is roughly how I plan to conduct this course. Our first session is coming to an end. I want to remind you that all sessions will be interconnected by a comprehensive business case. All sessions will be linked with completing homework assignments. All sessions will include interactions, questions, additions, comments, and critique from the participants. Naturally, they will be filled with practical examples, life stories, because this is what I do every day, and I have been doing it for many years. There's something to talk about, something to tell, something to debate. We have many questions that will not conform to the format, that won't be described in books, and we won't know if the solution I propose is the right one. Because as I have, roughly speaking, an approach that shows I need to resolve this issue, I have found the solution to this issue, but whether this solution is the only correct, unique, optimal, and effective one, only practice will show. And it might work in one case, but not in another. And we need to know this. That's why we learn all together. Grateful for the feedback, grateful for the attention, grateful for the time spent, listeners and me. And I want to see if you liked it, if you felt it was important for you, if you want to learn more about it, come, join, watch online, watch the recordings in any other form. I will be glad to see everyone. To those who are online now, those who will join later and watch the recording. A big hello to everyone. Stay connected. Keep learning new things.
That's all for today. See you in the next lesson.
Goodbye, everyone.